while we're speaking about the security around serverless, one of the other points, and I think we discussed this previously as well, is around kind of code vulnerabilities. So, is there a kind of a dependency to make sure that these serverless developers, that their code is secure? I mean, what if the serverless developers actually make security mistakes in their own code? That's obviously something that we would need to kind of take into consideration, right?
Absolutely. And sometimes it's tempting for developers when they move to a new environment. And we've seen this, in different generations of computing, right? Like we moved from traditional web apps to APIs, and we forgot all the stuff we learned about security, and we started over with APIs. And then, you move to another environment like serverless, and you kind of forget all the lessons of the past. And so it's tempting for developers to just move into this new environment and say, okay, there's no rules, like let's just write code quickly. And it's really important to realize that your serverless functions can have the same kinds of vulnerabilities that your APIs have, that your traditional web apps have. And so you need some tools to try to help you quickly diagnose those problems and get the guidance on how to fix them correctly. I don't think that sort of traditional application security tools work very well here. So the way Contrast works, we add this analysis directly into your AWS environment. So we can watch how the different functions interact with each other. We can see their code. We can see the resources that they access. We build a graph of how everything works. And then we can start using all that context to identify real vulnerabilities. Like, hey, this function accesses a database and it uses a query that uses untrusted data. We know an attacker can exploit that. And look, when we look at it in the graph, we can see that it's an edge function. Mm-hmm. And then we can think about, okay, so if an attacker took over that serverless function, what's the blast radius? Like, what are the next things that an attacker could get to, right, and how well are they protected? Mm-hmm. So it's important to have all of that context when you're dealing with serverless functions, because they are broken up. A traditional monolithic application, like the old school way of doing things, it might have hundreds of different features and functions in it, but it's all one piece of code. Then when you move to APIs, you break that up, and now you've got like 100 different APIs. Well, with serverless, that might get broken up into 1,000 different serverless functions, all doing little pieces of the problem, and it gets really difficult to manage that sprawl and the vulnerabilities across all of that sprawl. So you have to instrument your environment to understand what's going on in there.
Right. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So you've got to take a lot more of a kind of a holistic view on all of these individual kind of moving parts, and almost build security around each one of these, say, 1,000, 10,000 different moving parts, right?
Yeah, it's, serverless functions are a little different. They accept data from, not just from HTTP traffic. They might be getting data from another serverless function. It might be a voice command, or it might be a trigger that fired in some database that you're using. It might be a code commit that causes other code to run. And so, you have to really think about the threat model a little differently. Because it's not like sort of the traditional, like, oh, well, here's the front door where all the bad stuff comes in. Let's, do some protection there, and then we're good. It's, kind of attacks from every direction now.